Hello, everyone. We are here to discuss something very important, something that I have been wanting to talk about. I guess I shouldn't say wanting to talk about because I talk about it a lot already. But when I started school, the Farnsworth house was touted as like the pinnacle of residential elegance. And all I have to say to that is, really? Like, really? Really?
Like really.
Like really. So we're going to discuss why I don't think, or why we don't think, that the Farnsworth house is...
20 years later in school.
Right?
Still not cool.
God, that's harsh. But yes, no, is it still not cool? But I've heard that, like, in your education, though, that they didn't shove it down your throat as, like, the ideal.
We studied it a lot.
You studied it a lot?
We studied a lot. I don't think it was as much... of like,
you guys said Zaha. Like, Zaha was embraced.
Yeah.
Not so much when I started. It was Mies, and Mies and Corbusier. But only a section of Corbusier when he was restrained and very rational and very grid-like.
Not when he lost it.
No,
at the end.
Ronchamp that's clearly like he was getting dementia or something when he designed that. So everyone's talking about how great this house is and how it really gets at like some elegant, poetic notions of residence, And I'm sitting there in the auditorium. It's a slideshow, thing. Mm-hmm. And they put this up on the screen. That. And I thought maybe at first there was a mistake. Is that or maybe this is the maintenance
That's
shed
the intro
that is happening before the house.
The house is behind it.
Yeah, like, this is like, I don't know, this is like in the neighborhood or something on the way to the coal house, but no, that's it, right? Because in my mind, something like this, Lautner, Rangel House, Frank Lloyd Wright, Falling Water, Maison de Verre, or even Green and Green. I mean, come on, or Lautner again.
More of that.
Or,
oh my God.
I know, really? Not this. Not Gaudi. No. It's, or Alhambra, or anything like, or this, of course.
Yeah.
Come on. Mean, that could have been like the pinnacle of residential architecture, but no. Instead that. This box thing.
Is it a box?
It's
two platforms.
Yeah. It's
pancakes.
It's two horizontal slivers that are held up on the outside by beams that don't even, or columns that don't even really work like that, I guess. But whatever. All right, but let's put it into context.
Okay.
Let's back it up and let's just say, all right, like I get it. Like before the modern movement, right? Everything was very ornate. It was, it was neo-Gothic or Beaux-Arts, Art Nouveau. I mean, those were the big styles of the time, and they were very overwrought.
Yes. No, but...
Right, I know.
Yes.
Overwrought in a good way. I mean... but... And then...
it's just we pushed it too far.
Maybe.
So we got the Farnsworth house.
Well, okay. That's a piece of it, was that everything was very ornate and everything was very evocative and very ornamental. At the same time, you're having these, the Industrial Revolution happens, and you can do these amazing things with steel, right? You can build, all of a sudden they can do different things structurally with concrete. And, okay, let's not forget that horrific things were happening in the world. World War I, World War II, really terrible, horrible. And let's also just say for a moment that, Hitler was actually proficient in his ability to use awe-inspiring architecture as part of his propaganda.
Yeah, the manipulation thing.
Use that to his advantage in some of the arenas that he set up. So I get it that the Stijl movement came as a response. Adolf Lewis, all this stuff about armament and crime, that the savages have tattoos and they dance, and why are we regurgitating neoclassical stuff? Why don't we seek form, as some, or function as some sort of detailing as opposed to form, right? Why don't we come up with our own restrained kind of, and again, intellectually, this goes back to that thing too, talking about how it's beautiful if it's reduced down to an intellectual idea about it, where your emotions and your baser sentiments are not placated towards, right? I mean, no one wants to say that, like, I tap my foot to Britney Spears, you know. But I do.
Yeah.
I totally tap my foot to Britney Spears because she, you know, it's like that lowest common, like the non. But if the bass is good, you know, I'm going to play that song until I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? But in architecture, so they don't want to go for that. They don't want to go for all this like ornamentation or this facade stuff, right? They want to go for something pure, something intellectual, something that's more of an idea. But if you look at that Rietveld house, I feel like I need a college course or a pamphlet to understand why that's beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But okay, so I get it. And so then that's what produces this, right? That's what produces this idea of the lack of ornament. You know, the ornament is actually the structure. You know, it's distilled down. It's a grid. It's very logical. I mean, there's some poetic things that are going on, but it's absolutely stripped of everything. So, but if we gave it context, we would say...
The context is giving it the poeticness to it.
I mean, it has some poetic qualities to it, and they were going after something that was... They didn't want to do Art Nouveau. They didn't want to do Gothic. They didn't want to do anything ornamented or anything crusty.
We know why we got it, but it doesn't make it good.
Okay, let's lay out the argument. All right, so the argument, as far as we are concerned, is 4 things, okay? One is that there's little to no spatial differentiation in this glassy box. 2, that a house has... the idea that a house has a vertical notion of up and down and also a central core, which will bring in Gaston Bachelard, which, yes, I understand how Gaston Bachelard does not get the academic kudos, but we're just going to weave that in because it's not just him, it's a bunch of other people too that talk about residential architecture needing a verticality and a central core, and this doesn't have it. We'll get there in a minute. Number 3 is that there's no narration or sequencing of spaces. There's no story.
No.
And that for a caged, small, minimalist pavilion does not a poem make. I know that's kind of harsh. That is a little harsh. All right, so let's get to point number 1. Okay, so I put the little guys in the model here. So your experience when you're on the front porch, like not too different from your experience inside.
Well, that's what
the
I
house.
mean. Like from this point, you got it. I got it. I saw the whole thing.
I don't even need to go in.
Yeah.
I can pretty much see the whole thing from 20 feet away. I mean, I know that's the point. I get it. But houses don't typically, I mean, there usually has to be a story, like an evolution, a discovery, a sort of moment of enticement of something that is unique or something that's surprising. But there's nothing surprising going on here. And the spatial experiences from one place to the next. It's not like, oh, the view from this place is so different than the view from this. No. So I have a couple examples. Like if you look in the lower left, that's the same glassy box, sort of, except that it has nice sort of solid sides. You put it in a different location, right? And you connect it to the ground.
Some spaces.
Right. So maybe it's something because it's in this like sparsely, populated with trees kind of floodplain, and it's 2 horizontal levels. There's really no differentiation. It's not even like the glass box is that different from the location that it's in. You know what I mean? But if you put a glass box, on like the edge, like in Koenigs, like if you put it on the edge of a cliff overlooking LA, then you've got 2 or 3 different spatial experiences going on there. It's not just horizontal nothingness, right? Now, if you do Batman's Farnsworth, right? You take the Farnsworth, you add another bay onto it, paint it black, that's critical. You paint it back. And then you put it at the edge of a lake with the fog and the forest behind it. Now all of a sudden you have like a relationship with the forest behind, the lake in the front. Now all of a sudden you've got this glassy box that's like a transition between spaces, or it lives on the edge of something. And let's not forget, obviously, that if it's Batman, it's implied that there's a cave somewhere. So maybe there's like a trap door in this thing or something where it goes down to a cellar.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, you can't see right underneath it.
No.
Yeah.
You can't. All right, so verticality and the core, I mean, we can talk a lot about why this is important. This idea that there's a cellar, that, this place in the house where there's earth on the sides and it's dark, whether it's night or day. And the idea that there's an attic and that it reaches towards the heavens and that there's a sort of bastard spaces that occur up there in a very spiritual sort of way. A house is a home, and it engages the imagination as kind of archetypal sort of space that we live in and houses our subconscious when it has a cellar and an attic and a central core. And the Farnsworth house doesn't have any of that. I mean, it's got a central core, but the idea is it's not supposed to go up even to the ceiling. It's supposed to float in the middle. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. I mean,
the core's laid down.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Although I will say that one thing, if you're talking about it as a like a poetic volume, let's say for a moment that they're just trying to create a something of the other. It's like this white, built man-made thing in this green lush area, and its glassy rectangularness is juxtaposed to the natural like green things. Okay, that's fine, except for the fact that you put verticals on the outside of this thing. Like you don't do the you don't do the pilotis on the inside where the glass goes all the way around. No, you kind of cage it in on the outside. Like then I'm gonna be a little bit critical and judgy and go mission not accomplished. So due to the lack of the spatial differentiation, the lack of verticality, there's no narration there's no surprise, there's no story.
No, there's zero mystery.
Zero mystery. So that's why I'm having a hard time with it. So in the midst of all this seemingly haterade, we do want to be a little balanced, right? We don't want to just say
You have to?
I guess. In any case, we're going to bring on someone who's apparently really likes the Farnsworth, which, okay.
Voice trailed up.
I'm a little shocked that Nathan actually likes the Farnsworth. Intrigued, though. Intrigued. So on the back of that intriguing sort of detached curiosity that I have about this, Nathan, can you please come sit down and tell us about the Farnsworth?
Hey. Well, first off, it seems there really is some deep-rooted, scarred architecture school PTSD.
Personal.
I know, but
with this,
maybe point taken.
With this building.
I was, 22 at the time. There could be some of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not as far as that I just like it. It's more that I appreciate it and I understand its importance in history.
All right.
And for the time, there was nothing really like that.
Well, I will give you that. I totally agree, 100%.
And it's sort of like it was sort of the first of its kind in a way. Mm-hmm. And having floor-to-ceiling windows or expressing sort of the structure and the floor plates of a building, I don't think was really done in that way before, at least in a residential building of that sort.
I would completely agree. I mean, Philip Johnson,
exactly.
like immediately ripped it off. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. There's some controversy,
but
right.
He built it before, but the drawings for the Farnsworth house were done before he built his house. So he saw a story there. So I think I don't know for sure, but I think he sort of like looked at the drawings and then was inspired and then sort of went and did his.
Right.
Which I also really do admire. I think that structure is
Nathan
great as well.
Okay, all right.
For different reasons.
Okay.
But,
wildly different reasons. All right, but go ahead. Yes.
But I think that. So to the first point, I guess the differentiation of scale, was it?
No, the differentiation of spaces.
Spaces.
Then you there's not like different experiences going on.
Well, right. So granted, yes, like when you're standing outside of it, you can sort of see it is what it is, and it's not trying to be something else. But I think sort of when you're in it, and I haven't been there. Have you been there?
We tried.
I know. That's the thing. All right, we should just put that out there that we actually haven't been there.
Yeah.
Right, but it's on my list of places to
right.
go. Yeah, it's out of the way. It's like an hour out of Chicago. It's not. So you have to kind of make a pilgrimage there. But I think once you're there, and I've been in spaces that are sort of inspired by it, and sort of when you're in a space where it's just floor to ceiling glass and there's nature around you, I think it really frames the view of nature, and I think it really creates a space that really allows you to focus on the exterior. And I think that's something that I appreciate of it, is that it's sort of deprived of the ornament, or deprived of even just the fundamental thing, like toe kicks on a door, or like it's deprived of even hardware to an extent on it. And I think that I admire that aspect of it, because it's really hard to do a building that's that restrained and that has literally like nothing to it. That's
well,
what
then
I
maybe
admire
part of my argument would be then better location then.
Maybe.
Or a different program.
Oh, maybe, right, sure.
Right.
Like it would function as an art gallery, or like something, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
Or meditation
I mean,
space.
I like the look. I think the location that it's in is sort of beautiful, and I think it doesn't have a view,
Super subtle.
but nor does like, I mean, falling water doesn't really, I mean, it has a view of sort of like the ravine and things like that, but I really admire architecture where the nature is sort of like coming down on top of it, and I think that that's something nice about it, not being on a cliff or sort of being surrounded and then there's sort of like a river like 40 yards away or whatever.
So you just don't, you like the anti-drama of it. You like the subtlety of it.
I think so. I think that you're there, I mean, in a way it's very narcissistic because you're sort of there to see the house and you're sort of there just because of the house, really. Like you wouldn't be in Plano, Illinois on a floodplain if that house wasn't there. So I think that there's something...
But how is that narcissistic though?
Well, I think that like Mies himself, like I think in a way he knows that like he's good, and he knows that he was admired. I think at this point in time, like he had sort of completed a lot of his kind of bigger commissions, like the Crown Hall and sort of the big like the tower in New York that's very sort of, again, the exposed steel, things like that. And so I think
as an ornament, by the way.
Sure.
Okay, good. Just so that we are clear that the steel of the Sequins building is not structural.
Right, and exactly, Sequin. I wouldn't say that the house isn't deprived of ornament. I think there is an ornamentation to it, like with the way that the I-beam, like even why the I-beam is turned the way it is. It's turned sort of like facing outwards or whatever. Like it was considered and thought about.
Sure.
So and the way that like the like lower terrace is sort of like just askew of the building.
Jeez, these things are so subtle though. It's like I want to I want to yawn a little, just a little bit. Give me more.
But I guess it just goes back to like what I admire about it is just the minimalistic qualities of it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he did it. But I think that's it's like the lack of I guess like human touch is what it is. Like when you say like no hardware, no tokens.
I respect that.
It makes it different. It's different.
It's hard. It's hard.
But it kind of takes like the human
exactly
part out of it and the home part out of it.
And to be honest, the things like I love about it are like the fireplace. Like the things that I like in it are
why? Like what about the fireplace?
Like I love the that piece of
you
walnut.
have literally like 6.5 feet behind the fire. I mean,
but I love like I just love that like volume of walnut, and then how like everything is fit inside that volume. Like that, I think is what is.
So is there a little bit of your engineering sensibilities that get alighted here? I mean, there's a certain sort of
and like how you fit like plumbing into that, and like how there's no like exposed power pole or things like that have to go in the house.
I mean,
granted,
later when it
be nice.
I mean, no,
be nice. I can see the Oxnard coming out right now.
Like the
Nathan's being super respectful.
Talk about like the plumbing and things like that. Well, it was like known to not function very well.
Sure, granted, yeah.
Like
Edith
he tried. Like he did.
Farnsworth,
he tried,
etc.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still there.
Well, but I think you're speaking to something that I think is really pretty key, which is that, and I'm sure you may have more to say, obviously, than the first 2 points you made, but I do think that it's a great example of the other, right? I mean, we were talking about the Richard Meyer, house earlier, how it sits in the forest, and it just seems so alien to me. Anyway, you didn't say that, I did. And that there is an elegance to that. Like, it is so not anything floodplain related in Illinois. It is, and it's not even typical building. It is like, and it's stark white. I get it, and it's so there. It is deprived. I like the word you use, deprived. That's a great word. It's deprived of all of the things that you would think of as home.
Right,
but then at what point then do you say so as a house?
Right.
It's maybe not the best example.
Sure, but I mean, my whole thing with just residential design.
She wants you to say it.
She wants you to say it.
Say what?
It isn't the best example of a house.
Well, maybe, but I would argue that.
Maybe.
But I would argue that it is. I think ultimately, I think.
Well, what
house,
about? Okay.
I think a house is some place that you want to go to. I think for me, one of my fundamentals of architecture is just creating a space that you want to go to. Like that was something that was said to me in like my second year of school. Like if you're not making something that you think is a great place to be, like you need to maybe like check yourself a little bit. And I think ultimately the Farnsworth house, granted, it maybe isn't a place that I want to live in round the clock and year round, and in the dead of winter, I maybe don't want to be there. But I think it's a vacation home. It's like an accessory house. It's not someone's main building. And I think there's something beautiful about designing a space like that where you can sort of forego and sort of, I think in a way you're relieved of some of the duties of creating, of the duties and the checklists that you would have to kind of cross off in a typical residential house. That you're
like what?
Like for a family, for example, like a garage. Like in a vacation house, you're not maybe staying there for a long period of time. It may even be a place that you're maybe being like dropped off at in like a cab, like that you maybe won't even need a car to get there. So it doesn't.
So it's almost like its perversity is the thing that you enjoy. The fact that it's so non-housey.
Maybe, but I would argue that you can still like I would want to spend a night in there. I think that'd be awesome.
And
I would too.
I
actually
don't refute that. Oh, finish what you were going to say.
I just want to try it.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
so you're
like
being serious. I thought there was a
yeah.
huge sarcastic tail come into that.
No.
And in fact,
I would want to.
I would too. If only if I could go, man, I hate this place.
Because
I mean, or let me be like, I guess. I
would need to experience the fireplace now because I don't. Obviously,
walk all the way.
I know, and I would have to check out. And you're right. I'd never noticed the fact that seriously, there's no toe kicks to anything. The glass is seriously like. There's no frames, there's no bolts, like, I mean, you basically, all that stuff. You're making me appreciate it in a minimalist sort of a way, and I would like to visit it,
right?
You know?
Sure.
But I wouldn't drive to Plano to do it.
Sure.
I would never live in it, and I wouldn't think of it as something that could hold a family or a home.
Totally.
Or kids,
and I think,
or even my imagination.
I think in a way, like, so the client's prompt was like she wanted a space that was a vacation where she could sort of reconnect. It was something like she could reconnect with her hobbies, whether it be like playing the violin or like writing, and she was like a pharmacist or a neurologist or some sort of wealthy person. So in a way, I think this house was sort of like, well, this is my like showpiece of a home. So there weren't also the kind of requirements that would maybe be in place for designing like their soul house. So I think in a way,
and I get that.
So it has in a way like it's kind of warrant for disconnect from like a typical.
I do, but I also think it's a commentary on the delight in the lack of house. It's almost like you have to bring everything to it. You know what I mean? There's well, you know what I mean? It's like
nothing.
It's almost like well, but you know, someone said the other day they were saying in a conversation like you never look to your husband or your wife or somebody that you love and go, I want to fundamentally change you, right? Nor should you. So with a house, I'm thinking, why would you do that then? I mean, I see what you're saying. It's like a house, the way it typically functions with all the things it's supposed to do. When you would look at a house, why would you say, I'm going to unmake you and completely
So you want to like go to the Farnsworth house and bring like Christmas lights?
Well, no. I'm just saying that.
Let's make a list of what Dulcie wants to bring to the Farnsworth house.
Oh, I could do that. I could so redesign this house. That's another episode. And we could tear a new hole in that thing for sure. And we could do it up, but that's not the point. But no, I think you're missing my point. My point was that I got it there for a moment when you're saying, all right, I want to go to this like place. I'm bringing my violin. You said you
right, sure.
Right?
Okay.
So then you are bringing the home. You are bringing the hearth.
Right.
It's not the building that brings any of it. You as the inhabitant have to bring everything to it.
It's a very good option.
So, I mean, and in one case, I agree with that and I understand that, but it's so anti. It's so almost like haterade on architecture. Like you wouldn't turn to a spouse and say, I want to change you fundamentally if you love them, right? If you love architecture, the idea of stripping it down to being almost not there at all is a little antithetical for me. Although I do understand what you're saying and I understand it as a concept or an idea. As a 22-year-old being shown this structure as somehow being that it's an anti-building.
And listen, I completely get it, and I think similar feelings to the Farnsworth house to Villa Savoie, what you guys discussed. Like I have major problems with that structure.
I'm relieved. I'm a little relieved.
Right, but then again, I love like Villa Garches. Like I love the back.
The back. That's how you say it.
Whatever,
Garches.
But my favorite part is actually the back of that building. I think is way better than the front, which no one ever sees.
I mean, that's always better.
So, yeah. No, but I was going to make a point, like the Farnsworth house does it. Farnsworth house doesn't have an ass
That's
or
true.
a backside.
It doesn't.
Right. But like you said, it's kind of the point, though.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah. All right.
And I'm not like a fanboy of it. Like I think I appreciate what the Farnsworth house is and what it did for sort of the Bauhaus movement and sort of international style in America. I think that a lot of the structures and a lot of the architects that we admire today, I don't think we would have had that without this building in America.
We can agree to maybe not agree a little bit. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I do agree with you.
I mean, you're giving it the time of day, so there's some level of...
I know. It's got that power over me, which I don't like.
Yeah, it's giving...
Maybe we don't air this. Maybe we don't. All right. That's it for now. We'll see you later.
We got it.